So I'm going to show you the easiest way to set a sleeve so that you always get an absolutely perfect finish. We're going to start by sewing 2 rows of long stitching around the sleeve head, stitching between the notches, from the back notch to the front notch. You're going to want to extend your stitch length, so take it up to the highest it will go to, which on my machine is 5, and then centre your needle. When you're stitching, aim to stitch about 1 centimetre away from the raw edge of the sleeve head for your first row, and then about 2 to 3 millimetres away from that for your second row. Leave long thread tails and cut them off. So next we're going to join the sleeve seam, so make sure that you reset your settings to a regular stitch length. And you're going to want to make sure that all of your balance lines, notches and edges are all lined up. You might want to use a few pins to make sure that this stays really precise. Next, after giving your sleeve seam a good press, you're going to turn your sleeve the right way out. Keep your bodice the wrong way out. We're going to start by matching the notches. So the front notch matches to the front notch in the bodice, and the back double notches on the sleeve match to the back double notches on the bodice. So take those double notches, match them together, making sure the raw edges are aligned, and make sure those thread tails are out of the way and accessible. And then pop in a little pin. Now make sure that you put your pins in perpendicular to the raw edge of the fabric. Then continue to pin the sleeve into the armhole, pinning at the sleeve head notch and matching that with the shoulder seam, and then matching the 2 front notches. Make sure those thread tails stay out of the way so that you can access them easily. When you pop the pins in, put them in perpendicular to the edge of the fabric with the head sticking out. And don't catch too much fabric. Then you can use the pin to wrap the thread tails around in a figure of 8 to secure them once you've finished gathering. I'll show you how to do this in more detail in just a moment. Continue pinning the sleeve into the armhole, making sure at the underarm that the seam is pressed open. You can use a pin to check that the seams align. Pop the pin through and then check on the other side to make sure that it's all lined up neatly. So now it's time to start gathering our sleeve into our armhole. You can see here that we've got quite a bit more sleeve fabric than we have armhole space. So we need to pull the threads to gather the fabric ever so slightly to fit into this space. So we are going to be creating some gathers in the sleeve head to start off with, but we're going to be easing these so that the fabric doesn't look gathered in the end. However, to start off with, you want to wrap the thread tails around your finger and just pull the threads until the area gathers to fit into the armhole. So at this point, the sleeve fabric is going to be quite gathered, and the gathers are probably going to be quite uneven. Pull the threads just a slight bit more to make this gathered section a bit smaller than the area that you're fitting it into, because you're fitting it into a curve which will stretch. So you just need a little bit more tension there. And wrap the thread tails around the pin in a figure of 8 to secure. Then you can use your fingertips to just gently ease those gathers so that they're really nice and evenly spread all along the sleeve head. Give them a little press with your fingertips between your thumb and finger and tickle them into place. Once you're happy that the gathers are spread evenly along the sleeve head, you can start to pin the sleeve into the armhole. Start at the centre, placing the pins perpendicular to the edge of the fabric again, and work between the pins from the centre out, placing lots of pins in and spreading them approximately 2 to 3 centimetres apart. Once you've pinned the gathered and eased section in, continue to pin the rest of the sleeve into the armhole. You should find that the sleeve section of the underarm fits neatly into the underarm of the bodice without any need for easing or gathering. If there is a little bit of excess, just pull the curved seams slightly and they should fit together neatly. Now with the sleeve on top and the bodice underneath, carefully sew around the entire armhole to insert the sleeve into the armhole. You can leave your pins in for this as long as you're using thin, long pins. Sew slowly and carefully, maintaining your seam allowance, and make sure that you're checking the underneath of the fabric for any pleats or gathers. Feeling the fabric as you sew is as important as looking at it, so make sure that you're smoothing out the fabric and feeling for anything that might be getting caught along the way. Once you've finished sewing all the way around and you've overlapped your stitches slightly, check for any pleats and gathers and then remove your extra pins if you haven't already. Snip off any extra threads and turn your sleeve the right way out to admire your beautifully set-in sleeve. Now I have got a few little tucks in this. It's incredibly difficult to sew calico without getting these, but you can use your fingernails to just tease these out. And of course you're going to want to press your sleeve head well over a tailor's ham with lots of steam to get that sleeve looking absolutely perfect. I hope you've enjoyed these hints and tips, and they'll help you out with setting in your sleeves beautifully. Remember, practice makes better, and there are some fabrics that are just so much easier to set a sleeve into than others. So don't beat yourself up. Keep practicing, and don't fear the set-in sleeve.